What's up, guys? I'm Jed. Today we're going to be reacting to the craziest psychological theories explained in 14 minutes. Now, I'm a big psychological person and believer. I love theories. I love when people talk about theories and stuff. It's all my TikTok is, it's all what my YouTube is. So, I believe in them a lot, there's some weird stuff I believe in kind of, but um I don't know what's in this video yet, so let's get into it. Alright, so here is the video. Let's get into it.
Boltzmann brain. Boltzmann brain is a thought experiment that suggests that given enough time, a self-aware brain could randomly form in the universe due to quantum fluctuations. This hypothetical brain would have memories and perceptions of really living in a structured reality, even though it is just a temporary, random occurrence in a chaotic universe. This theory asks if it's more likely for the universe to exist, with all its complexity, or for a single brain with false memories to appear randomly. If the latter is more probable, it implies that everything you experience might just be a brief hallucination by a Boltzmann brain. Solipsism.
So you're saying a brain's just gonna come from nothing? Or from that one is has me confused. So I'm like a fake brain? I'm just not this is a memory right now? Or this is Aaron Yeager? I don't know. That one did not make a lot of sense to me.
Solipsism is the idea that only your own mind can be known for sure to exist. According to this theory, the outside
Right off the bat, this one makes a little bit of sense already. This makes sense to me. I'm the only character, only playable character.
world, other people, objects, and events cannot be definitely proven to exist beyond your own perception. This is because all experiences are subjective, meaning they are understood through your individual mind. So while you may see and interact with the world, solipsism questions if the world actually exists on its own, or if it's all just created by your mind. You have no way to know. The
I like that one because then it's you ever see there's no way everyone's going home to their own family and their own problems. That is struggle to believe. It's what do you mean? Like everyone has their own struggles, everyone has their own happiness, and you're going home to your own family, or it's I'm the only main character. Like everything happens is the only thing I see. Nothing outside of what I see happens. This video was put here for me. I'm the main character. Obviously I don't 100% believe that, but I think about that sometimes.
Transportation paradox. The teletransportation paradox is a thought experiment that explores the implications of teleportation and identity. Imagine a teleportation device that scans a person's entire body and mind, mapping every atom and neural connection. The device then transmits this information to another location, where a new, identical body is constructed, perfectly replicating the original person, including their memories and personality. The paradox arises when considering what happens during this process. Is the person who arrives at the destination the same individual who entered the teleportation machine? If the original person is disassembled at the point of departure, is that person effectively killed? If so, then the new person created at the destination, while identical in every way, is technically a different individual. The egg theory. The egg theory is a
We're
thought
just thrown from random other place and all our memories deleted.
Experiment that suggests that every person who has ever lived or ever will live is actually the same being, experiencing life in different forms and at different times. The theory proposes that when a person dies, they are reincarnated as another person without any memory of their previous lives. This process continues until that being has lived every human life in existence. According to the theory, the universe exists as an egg, a place for this single being to grow and mature through the experience of living many lives. Once all lives have been lived, the individual reaches a higher state of consciousness and becomes like a god, completing their spiritual evolution. Just as the universe, in this theory, is designed for growth and evolution, so too is every business. In my opinion, you can't really manage to do so efficiently without today's sponsor, Odoo. Odoo is a business management
Alright,
software
bro.
that includes every
Edit
app you'll
this
need for
out,
your
bro.
business, serving
Edit
as your
this out,
one-stop
bro.
shop
Oh
for
my
everything:
god. You
accounting,
really gotta
inventory,
sponsor this,
sales,
bro.
invoicing, electronics. The omnipotence paradox.
Probably not.
The omnipotence paradox is a thought experiment that challenges the concept of omnipotence, or unlimited power. It
What does
asks
that mean?
whether an all-powerful being like God could create a stone so heavy that even they cannot lift it. The dilemma arises because both possible answers seem to limit the being's power. If the being can create the stone, they cannot lift it, which means there's something they cannot do. This implies a limit to their power, contradicting the idea of being all-powerful. On the other hand, if they cannot create such a stone, this also indicates a limitation, as they are unable to do something that should be within the scope of omnipotence. But God might be over logic itself, or one might say that by omnipotent, we mean a being that can do anything that is logically possible. Being all-powerful doesn't mean doing logically impossible things like creating a square circle. It means having power over everything that exists. Logical impossibilities, like a square circle, aren't real things that can exist, so it remains just a cool debunked thought experiment. Antinatalism. Antinatalism is a philosophical position that argues against giving birth, suggesting that it is morally wrong to bring new individuals into existence because life itself inherently involves suffering.
Isn't the whole reason humans live to reproduce, or like anything lives to reproduce?
Pain, and hardship. So it is better not to create new lives that will inevitably face these.
So we should just all die right now and just never go on to tomorrow.
Challenges. One key argument in antinatalism is that coming into existence exposes individuals to more suffering than joy, making it not worth it. Additionally, some antinatalists point out the environmental and ethical implications of overpopulation, arguing that it contributes to suffering not just for individuals, but for society as a whole and the planet. You are not free. This theory about the absence of free will from human life suggests that individuals have the ability to make choices and take actions based on their desires. However, they do not have the ability to control the will behind any of their actions, thus making them a slave to their own desires. In order to prove this theory, the following thought experiment is proposed. If you're deciding between which ice cream flavor to pick, chocolate or vanilla, and end up deciding that you genuinely want chocolate, there is absolutely nothing you could do in that situation to change that desire, unless an external factor that you also cannot control is involved, such as finding out that vanilla ice cream is cheaper or that it's not as unhealthy. This shows that the only way for you to do anything is by wanting to do it, which we already determined you cannot control, or by being forced to do it, which you obviously cannot control either, thus proving that free will does not exist.
See, this was a good one. I actually I don't like this one, but this one makes a lot of sense. Like, you could be as free as you want to be, but you're never actually free. You can never, that's like a goal in my life, is to be as free as possible, but it's impossible to reach a point where you're completely free because you're always a slave to something. Like, say you make it out of where your situation is and now you're rich and you have no worries. You could still be a slave to the money. You could still be a slave to someone higher up. You could be a slave to business. Like, you're always a slave to something. You're never free. I like this one.
Ship of Theseus. The Ship of Theseus is a philosophical thought experiment that questions the nature of identity and change. It begins with a ship owned by the hero Theseus, and over time, as the ship sails, its wooden parts decay and are replaced with new ones. Eventually, every original part is replaced, which leads to the central question: is the fully restored ship still the Ship of Theseus? To complicate matters, suppose the original parts are gathered and reassembled into a ship. Now, there are two ships, one composed entirely of new materials, and one made of the original components. This scenario showcases how definitions are artificial and not as stable as we think. Does the ship retain its identity despite having all its parts replaced? Which ship is the true Ship of Theseus? Ethical egoism. Ethical ego.
Dude, that one's trippy. I don't know the answer. I don't know. That one tripped me out, kinda. Is it can you correlate to that with humans? Like, are we not human anymore because we're different? Like, obviously, we're mammals or whatever. Like, is it broaden our category or small? I don't know, dude. That one tricked me.
Egoism is the philosophical theory that individuals should always act in their own self-interest and have no regard for the consequences of their actions on others. This theory asserts that actions are only morally right if they benefit the individual performing them, emphasizing that values like sympathy and altruism were an idea constructed by weak individuals who could not assert themselves in society, so they had to make up an entire moral system to justify their incompetence. Ethical egoism argues that, like all other animals, we have a deep desire to secure our own survival, and we should not deny it or act against it, as it would be unnatural and damaging to do so. Furthermore, ethical egoists argue that by pursuing their own goals, individuals may also contribute positively to society, as their actions can lead to overall better outcomes for other people as well. Rocco's
So that one, I mean, it makes sense, but it's kind of got to be situationally. Like, obviously, like in this life, is like the world is selfish, and I really do think you got to choose yourself a lot of times more than people do. And that one makes sense. You got to choose yourself over other people, but like obviously, there's sometimes where you got to like be sympathetic for the other person, but also I agree there's a lot of times where you can't be sympathetic. Someone thing that I can compare that to is the Beast games. Y'all ever watch that, bro? It's actually pretty good. But like there's millions of dollars on the line and people are the people who lose it's because they chose to help other people instead of boosting themselves up. But they also have to use sympathy to get themselves there. But there comes a point where they have to choose themselves and they can't care about the other person. I think that's a good comparison to that. Like y'all gotta go check that out because that Beast Games is really good and that like connects to that. You know what I'm saying. You know where I'm going with that. Well, you know what I'm going.
Basilisk. Rocco's basilisk is a thought experiment suggesting that a future artificial superintelligence could be motivated to punish or torture individuals who knew about the possibility of its existence but did not actively help in bringing it into reality. The purpose of this punishment would be to incentivize people to support its development. Essentially, the AI might create virtual simulations where those who fail to assist in its creation are tortured. Esse est percipi.
Huh? AI has gone too far, bro. What was that?
It means that everything only exists if it's being perceived. For example, if you sit on a chair and stand up without looking at the chair has ceased to exist. Quantum immortality.
Um, you know, I guess. I guess.
Quantum immortality is a thought experiment stemming from the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. This theory suggests that a conscious being cannot experience their own death because there exist alternate realities where they continue to survive. The core concept proposes that every decision or event creates multiple branches of reality. In life-threatening situations, there will always be at least one version of reality where the individual survives. Therefore, when faced with danger, the individual's consciousness only perceives outcomes in which they remain alive. As a result, quantum immortality implies that individuals would perceive themselves as immortal as they can never experience their own death.
Yeah, I don't know.
Philosophical zombies. Philosophical zombies are hypothetical beings that look and act like humans but lack conscious experience. These beings behave exactly as humans do, but they have no inner life, no subjective feelings or thoughts. The thought experiment challenges materialism, which
So basically, like NPCs. Like, no, this one kind of makes sense.
holds that consciousness can be fully explained by physical processes in the brain. If it's possible to imagine a being that is physically identical to a human but lacks consciousness, then consciousness might not be fully explained by physical states. Zeno's paradox.
That one kind of makes sense, I guess.
Zeno's paradoxes are a set of thought experiments from the Greek philosopher Zeno, who used them to argue that motion is impossible, or at least not what it seems. The most famous paradox is Achilles and the tortoise, which highlights the problems that come up when we think about dividing things into infinitely small parts. In this example, Achilles, a fast runner, is racing a tortoise, which is much slower. To make it fair, the tortoise starts ahead. Zeno argued that Achilles can never actually catch up to the tortoise because every time he reaches the point where the tortoise was, the tortoise has moved a little bit further ahead. Imagine walking towards a destination. To reach it, you'd first have to walk halfway there, and to walk halfway there, you'd first have to walk a quarter of the way there, and so on, creating an infinite number of steps and causing you not to be able to reach your destination.
Dude, that one's really trippy. That one kind of makes sense, but like there's holes in it because like you just like comes to a point where you just like there's no more quarters. But like if you go a quarter of the way every time, the quarters will never end because it'll never reach a whole number. That actually would make sense, and it's trippy, and it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. If you get what I'm saying, that one's trippy. No, that one's actually. Now I'm thinking about it. You got a line. You go a quarter of the way of the line. Then you go another quarter. You go another quarter. You go another quarter. You go another quarter. You're never gonna make it. So how do you make it if you're only going quarter by quarter? Or am I stupid?
Problem of induction. The problem of induction, introduced by David Hume, questions how we can justify our belief that the future will resemble the past. For example, we expect the sun to rise tomorrow because it has risen every day before. However, Hume pointed out that there's no logical guarantee this will always happen. Just because something has occurred many times doesn't mean it will continue to do so. Any justification for this assumption relies on past experiences, which is circular reasoning. If we say that we trust induction because it has worked in the past, we are using induction to justify induction. This means that our reliance on patterns in the world is based more on habit than on solid logical grounds. The experience machine. The experience machine is a thought experiment proposed by philosopher Robert Nozick to challenge the idea that pleasure and happiness are the only things that matter in life. In this scenario, imagine a machine that can provide you with any experience you desire. You could feel immense joy, love, success, or any other pleasurable sensation, all while being completely unaware that these experiences are simulated.
Infinite Tsukiyomi. If you know, you know.
Nozick asks whether you would choose to plug into this machine for the rest of your life. Many people intuitively reject the idea of living in the experience machine, preferring real life with its struggles and hardships over an artificial existence filled with pleasure. This rejection suggests
Infinite Tsukiyomi, bruh.
that there are values beyond mere pleasure, such as authenticity, relationships, and the pursuit of genuine achievements.
That one makes sense. Like, obviously, like, the goal in life is happiness, but the happiness doesn't mean as much if you didn't work to get there. Like, a lot of the times, if you see people at the top, they talk about the journey of getting there is better than the actual destination. So, like, the journey to happiness or the journey to money or your journey on whatever your dream is, I think it just, like, that's just thrown out the window. So, I don't know about that one. That one's kind of something else to think about. Like, they're all to think about, but, like, the hardships kind of make it worth it.
Moral anti-realism. Moral anti-realism is the philosophical view that there are no objective moral truths or values independent of human beliefs and opinions. According to this perspective, moral statements do not describe facts about the world, but are instead expressions of our attitudes or preferences. For example, if someone says, "Killing people is wrong," a moral anti-realist would argue that this statement doesn't reflect an absolute truth. Instead, it expresses a social consensus or a personal belief. The idea is that actions like killing are not
So we're talking about opinions, and no one knows what an opinion is.
inherently good or bad. Rather, we label them as such based on cultural norms, societal agreements, or individual feelings. The paradox of tolerance. The paradox of tolerance, created by philosopher Karl Popper, examines the limits of
That's a scary looking fella.
a tolerant society. Popper argues that a truly tolerant society should not tolerate intolerance, because if a society extends tolerance to those who are intolerant, it risks allowing intolerant groups to gain power and suppress the very freedoms that enable a tolerant environment. For example, if a tolerant society allows hateful ideologies to flourish, those ideologies could undermine the rights and freedoms of others, which creates a dilemma. If a society tolerates all viewpoints, including those that advocate for intolerance or violence, it may ultimately lead to the destruction of tolerance itself. Popper suggests that in order to maintain a tolerant society, it is necessary to take a stand against intolerant beliefs and actions, even if this means limiting the freedom of those who follow them. The knowledge argument.
That one's kind of confusing, to be honest. I guess it does. I don't know, dude.
Knowledge argument, often illustrated by the thought experiment known as Mary's Room, was proposed by philosopher Frank Jackson, who created a scenario in which a girl named Mary is a brilliant neuroscientist who knows everything there is to know about the physical aspects of color, but she lives in a black and white room and has never experienced color herself. One day, Mary leaves her room and sees a red apple for the first time. The knowledge argument poses the question, does Mary learn something new about color when she sees the apple? Jackson argues that she does, because although Mary had all the scientific knowledge about how color perception works, her experience of seeing color for the first time provides her with new information that she could not have known while confined to the black and white room. This thought experiment suggests that there are non-physical aspects of knowledge, specifically the subjective experiences of perception. The infinite monkey theorem. The infinite monkey
What did they even just say? I don't even know. I don't know what I clicked.
theorem is a thought experiment that suggests that given an infinite amount of time, a monkey randomly pressing keys on a typewriter or keyboard would eventually type out any given text, such as the complete works of William Shakespeare, helping to understand how long infinity really is. If you want to discuss this video,
Monkey? Well, we are monkeys, right? So, like, no, if I'm a monkey, just put me out there. I can write a book or something. But, like, I mean, I think they could have, like, explained infinity better. Like, feel like that theory should have just been about infinity. That would have made more sense to me at least. Like infinity, like I don't know. But I hope you guys like that video. I love psychology and talking about stuff like this. If you want to see like a deeper dive into one psychology, let me know. Please leave some comments. Make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. See you guys next time. Deuces.